Ladies and gentlemen, it's time. Time to put up or shut up. I am staking my entire reputation on these fantasy players in 2025. I have fallen in love. I want to draft them in every single draft I'm in. Here is my official list of 10 plus my guys for 2025. And we're starting off with the running back. You might have guessed it if you watched this channel, Chase Brown. Welcome, Chase Brown, to the official My Guys Club. Look, Chase Brown has already shown us ridiculous upside last season. From week 9 onwards, this might surprise some of you, Chase Brown was one of the most dominant running backs in the league from a utilization perspective. He had a higher utilization rate in that span than Saquon Barkley, Bijan Robinson, Devon Achane. The man was the definition of a workhorse. From weeks 9 to 17, he didn't play in week 18. He was 7th in carries, 2nd in targets amongst running backs, 4th in touches per game, 3rd in fantasy points per game at almost 21, and he was the RB5 in that span. And by the way, Brown averaged more points per game in that span weeks 9 to 17 than Jahmyr Gibbs, Josh Jacobs, Devon Achane, Derrick Henry, Joe Mixon, and Alvin Kamara. He averaged more points per game than Jahmyr Gibbs in that span. Ladies and gentlemen, this man could be a monster. By the way, in PPR leagues, he's going to be an absolute cheat code. Last year, the Bengals were extremely pass happy. They were 2nd in passing attempts per game, right behind the Browns, and their offense was fantastic. Top 7 in offensive points per game, top 8 in total plays per game, a high volume offense, a high scoring offense. And the best part about this is it's the perfect fantasy situation because their defense was bottom of the league in points allowed per game. So that's this perfect combo of poor defense, elite offense that leads to beautiful fantasy outcomes. And they gave Chase a ton of work through the air last year. Not even Jamar Chase, Chase Brown. From week 9 onwards, they averaged 5.5 targets per game. That's a full season pace of 94 targets. By the way, Alvin Kamara finished 1st in targets last year amongst running backs with 89. And let's be honest, the Bengals have clearly committed to being an offensively focused team. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, all signed to long-term contracts. Trey Hendrickson, the guy who led the NFL in sacks last year, at the time of recording this video, still no long-term deal. And lastly, no one on this depth chart is challenging Chase Brown. It's out with Zach Moss. Samaje Perine is now their official backup. He couldn't even beat out Kareem Hunt or Carson Steele for opportunities in Kansas City last year when Isaiah Pacheco went down. He accounted for less than 5% of the team's rushing attempts last year in Kansas City with more opportunities. I love Taj Brooks, but he's not a threat to Chase Brown. And look, if you don't take my word for it, if you think I'm out of pocket here, would you take their offensive coordinator, Dan Pitcher's word for it? Because here's what he had to say. He said, Chase Brown is going to, by the end of the season, be a household name. He's everything Austin Eckler was. You'll all know who he is. Buckle up, ladies and gentlemen, because we are going to the moon. All right, my first official my guy at the wide receiver spot, Mr. Jameson Williams. Welcome to the club, good sir. Full transparency, I have had love for this dude for a long time. I scouted him out of Alabama on our Dynasty channel, and I don't think we've seen the full Jameson Williams yet. He still has room to grow. I love this kid. But let's just recap the insane beginning of his career, okay? In year 1, he tore his ACL in January, was drafted in April, and barely played. In year 2, he got suspended 4 games due to a gambling violation and had an okay season, but he wasn't, full attention on football. Year 3, his first offseason, fully healthy, no off-field issues. He puts up 58 catches, 1,000 yards, and 7 touchdowns in 15 games. That's a 17-game pace of 66 receptions, over 1,100 yards, and 8 touchdowns. And by the way, he was far better last year than most people realize. He was top 4 in yards per target, yards per reception. He was 1st in yak per reception because he has those big explosive plays down the field. And he was 2nd in 40-plus touchdown receptions with 5. And with that kind of efficiency, that kind of big play explosiveness, that's just led him to be a league winner on any given touch. He had more fantasy points per touch last year than Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Brian Thomas, Ladd McConkey, T. Higgins, Devontae Adams, and Drake London. From week 11 onwards, once he came back from the injury, they started to really make him a focal point of this offense. His involvement on the right-hand side when he came back from injury from week 11 onwards here, his targets are going up. His target share is going up. His receiving yards per game are going up. Those are averages. He scored 16.2 points per game from week 11 onwards, which was more points per game in that span than Nico Collins had, Garrett Wilson, JSN, Tyreek Hill, and Jacoby Myers. Now, here's the interesting thing. He was already so good last year, only played 15 games, but this team is obsessed with his growth this offseason, and I understand why, because I don't think he's reached his potential just yet, but I think this year he finally does. And I don't typically bring up drumbeat on my channel, but when it's coming from every angle nonstop, it's hard to ignore. Okay, so for example, John Morton, his new offensive coordinator. John Morton looks at Jameson Williams like you would have looked at your first school crush. Just gushing with love for him. He actually said this recently. I'm so excited for him this year. It's going to be a breakout year for him. I can't wait. I just can't wait, man. Then he goes on to talk about the little details like the game slowing down for him, the route tree expanding. Dan Campbell, the head coach, he can't stop talking about how much better Jameson has been in every area this year. Listen to what he had to say.
We expect him to have a huge season. We really do, man. He's going to be one of these guys that we're going to lean on this year.
Receivers coach Scotty Montgomery talked about how, in meetings, his IQ is at an all-time high. His teammates are raving about him. Guys, if he was able to accomplish what he did last year, his first regular season, his regular year with no off-field or injury issues, what is he capable of doing this year? And by the way, if his offensive coordinator is claiming a breakout is on the way when he just put over 1,000 yards and 15 games up, what could his breakout look like? I am ready to ride the Jameson Williams train because I think there's true top 12 upside in 2025. All right, last year, Jaden Daniels was my guy quarterback. This year, it's going to be brother Bo Nix. Nix is easily the most underappreciated rookie from last season. In the first 4 weeks, he struggled, but then from weeks 5 onwards, he was dominant. You can see weeks 1 to 4 on the left side and weeks 5 onwards from the right side. But from weeks 5 onwards, that bottom right of this screenshot, the quarterback 5 in that span, that's a huge span. He averaged 21.5 points per game. From week 5 onwards, Bo Nix scored more points per game than Jaden Daniels, Patrick Mahomes, Jared Goff, Justin Herbert, Kyler Murray. I mean, let's take it a step further. He wasn't just good last year. He was historically good as a rookie. Here's a list of quarterbacks in the last 25 years who in the rookie season had 350 fantasy points, 3,200 passing yards, and 400 rushing yards. It's a list of 4 quarterbacks: Cam Newton, Jaden Daniels, RG3, and Bo Nix. And by the way, he did all of that with a completely below average situation. Denver was 20th in rushing yards per carry. Their leading rusher, Javonte Williams, was 42nd in the NFL in rushing yards. The rushing game did not help Bo Nix. Cortland Sutton was the only reliable weapon the entire season, and now help is coming in 2025 in the form of Evan Ingram, a good tight end that can produce after the catch. RJ Harvey, a good pass catcher out of the backfield. Dobbins is there. Mims and Franklin, another year to grow. Pat Bryant, a rookie wide receiver that can grow for them. His head coach, Sean Payton, he certainly sees the upside that I see. Here's what he said recently. He said, I honestly think he's going to be one of the top quarterbacks within the next 2 years. I think he's going to be a superstar. I'm with you, Shawnee. We're on the same page. Don't be afraid to click that draft button when his name comes up. All right. Another wide receiver here. Welcome to the club, George Pickens. A lot of you guys aren't going to be surprised about this one, but guys, I can't emphasize enough how different of an environment George Pickens is in this year compared to last year. Going from the Steelers to the Cowboys is the definition of a complete 180. The way these two teams operate offensively couldn't be more different. All right, for example, the Cowboys, they throw the ball at one of the highest rates in the NFL, while the Steelers are at the bottom of the league every year. Let's look at passing attempts and yards per game and where these teams ranked amongst the NFL. The Steelers, bottom of the league in both of these categories in the last 2 years. Cowboys, top of the league in both of these categories in the last 2 years. And the Steelers, by the way, they have a dominant lockdown defense. Last year, the Steelers allowed the 7th fewest points per game. The Cowboys allowed the 2nd most points per game. Steelers don't need to throw that ball as much. The Cowboys need to, right? I mean, Dak is easily the best quarterback George Pickens has ever played with. From Kenny Pickett to Mitch Trubisky to Mason Rudolph to Russell Wilson to Justin Fields, Dak is the biggest upgrade Pickens has ever had. And Pickens has never played with a quarterback that has thrown for over 2,500 yards in a single season. I can't emphasize how much of a change this is for George Pickens. I mean, he was the focal point of that air attack in Pittsburgh. Last year, out of 114 wide receivers who ran at least 100 routes, Pickens ranked 9th in first read target percentage. He ranked 17th in target share, 5th in air yard share, and 15th in team receiving yard share. And honestly, what you've seen in the last 2 years in Pittsburgh for George Pickens is his absolute floor in Dallas. He's going to be fed in a high-powered Cowboys offense as a number 2 receiver, and I'm all in, baby. All right. We need to welcome another running back to the official My Guys list. Welcome rookie Travion Henderson. Ramondre played at an incredibly replaceable level last year. I mean, if you look at 46 running backs with at least 100 rushing attempts last year, He ranked 33rd in PFF grade, 36 in yards per attempt, bottom of the league in all of these categories outside of missed tackles forced, right? However, there was one category that he did finish first in on his own in the NFL last year, and that was fumbles. Yeah, it was a real problem. He led the league in fumbles with 7 last year, which actually forced the Patriots to start Antonio Gibson 3 times. Meanwhile, Travion Henderson had 1 career fumble and 666 career touches as a collegiate player, and it came as a freshman. From his sophomore to his senior season, he didn't fumble the ball 1 time. It's a brand new coaching staff in New England. There's no, loyalty to Ramondre Stevenson. And if you look historically at running backs that have Travion Henderson's draft capital, they have had no ceiling as rookies. They've been league winners, like the Dalvin Cooks, Nick Chubbs, Swifts, Jonathan Taylors, Breece Hall, Ken Walkers. These are the guys that you're looking at historically as comps for a Travion Henderson. And keep in mind, Henderson is already this team's best rusher, their best receiver, their best big play threat. I don't see how they keep this guy off the field. I'm not afraid to say this, but I truly think he is this year's discount Jahmyr Gibbs, and you should be drafting him every single chance you get. All right, just before I get into my next My Guy, your secret weapon this year is going to be the 2025 season pass. I promise you, it is objectively the best deal the industry has ever seen. $34 when you use a promo code LAND at signup. That's about $1.60 per week until the end of the season, and you're going to get season-long access to my rankings, including weekly in-season rankings and rest of season rankings, all premium tools on the Flock site, like the trade calculator, the trade finder, the player comparison tool. You're going to get access to vouchers where you can ask me questions on my live streams. I'm going to be helping you out in real time. You're going to get access to my draft guide and everyone else's draft guide on the Flock site. And you're going to have the ability to enter real land community fantasy football leagues. Check out the link in the pinned comment, but do not pass up on the season pass. It's easily the best deal in the industry. All right, my next official My Guy at wide receiver is Ricky Pearsall, Slick Ricky himself. Look, his rookie stats are not going to impress you, but I want you to remember that this man was shot in the chest last year, okay? So talking about statistics for a guy who missed 6 games with a bullet wound, probably not going to be helpful, but he did have 5 games where he showed incredible flashes to end the season. For example, in week 17, almost 29 PPR points. In week 18, almost 19 PPR points, averaging 9 targets per game in those last 2 weeks. In games where he averaged over 70% of the snaps, he was averaging over 12 PPR points per game. I project him to be a weekly starter, 80+% of the snaps, especially because Deebo Samuel is gone. He's in Washington. Ayuk is going to start on the PUP list. We don't know how long Juwan Jennings is going to deal with his calf injury. Maybe he's holding out for money. And honestly, this offense as a whole should be much better in 2025. They're projected, according to ESPN's Mike Clays, to score the 3rd most points per game in the NFL, right behind Buffalo and Baltimore. And if you look historically at Shanahan-led offenses in San Francisco, typically these offenses are very dominant. Look at their average points per game and yards per game over the past 3 years in San Francisco. Do you notice any outlier here? To me, the outlier is last year where they were 14th in offensive points per game. And that outlier is there maybe because last year they had 41 combined missed games between CMC, Mason Debo, Ayuk, Pearsall, and Kittle. A healthy CMC, a breakout Ricky Pearsall could lead to a huge turnaround for this offense in 2025. And don't be surprised if you're talking about Ricky Pearsall as a top 15 guy heading into 2026 drafts next year. All right, we need to welcome another person into the Brotherhood, a running back. This should be the least surprising take of this entire video. Bucky Irving. We are all in on the GOAT, Bucky Irving himself. Look, Bucky didn't have a good rookie year. He had a historically great rookie year. Here's a list of running backs in the last 2.5 decades who in their rookie season had 240 plus PPR points, about 14.5 per game, 47 plus receptions, and averaged over 5.2 yards per carry. You ready for this? This is the list. Alvin Kamara, Jahmyr Gibbs, Bucky Irving. That's it. And by the way, if you add another qualifier to that list, 1,000 rushing yards, Bucky would stand alone, the only guy to accomplish that in the last 2.5 decades as a rookie. And if you remove the rookie tag altogether, he was just one of the best running backs in the NFL point blank period. Last year, amongst running backs, 4th in yards per carry, 7th in run grade, first in yards after contact per attempt, top 10 in missed tackles forced despite splitting opportunities with Rachaad White. And by the way, fun fact, the Tampa Bay Bucks had the biggest single season increase in team rushing yards in the Super Bowl era last year, and that had a lot to do with Bucky going absolutely X Games mode from week 12 onwards. In that span, on 51% of the snaps, he averaged 18.3 points per game. And in one of those games, week 14 versus the Raiders, he left with an injury, played 16% of the snaps. So if you remove that game, he averaged almost 21 points per game. Only Gibbs, Bijan, and Saquon averaged more points per game in that span. And if you're sitting here watching this video saying that you're worried about Rachaad White, wake up. Smell the coffee, people. Bucky didn't take over this role until after their bye week in week 12. Yes, from weeks 1 to 11, Rachaad White was, the more dominant back in this backfield. But eventually, this team could not keep Bucky off the field. After their bye week, Bucky was the dominant running back in this backfield. And then if you count the last 2 games of their season, must-win games, week 18 to make the playoffs in the wild card round versus Washington, here's how they distributed the touches. Bucky Irving got 21.5 touches per game in those 2 games, and Rachaad White had 1.5. And, I find it really funny. Everyone loved round 2 Devon Achane last year after his rookie season. But everyone is trashing round 2 Bucky Irving this year. I don't understand it. If you look at those 2 guys in their rookie seasons, Bucky averaged more touches per game than Achane did. They were same in yards per game. Fantasy points per game, Achane had a little bit of an upgrade there, but Bucky from week 10 onwards averaged 18.3 points per game himself. And Bucky finished as the RB13. He didn't have any injury bug that you had to really worry about. The difference between year 2 Achane and year 2 Bucky is you're betting on a better offense in Tampa Bay. All right, a wide receiver that we need to welcome to the official My Guys list, a rookie, Mr. Jaden Higgins. Early round 2 selection in the draft this year. There are some ups and downs from this list, but here's every wide receiver drafted top 5 in round 2 of the NFL draft since 2019. Some great names like Ladd McConkey in there, T. Higgins, Michael Pittman, Deebo Samuel. Some guys who didn't hit, obviously. But the benefit for Jaden is that he's going to step into a situation where he can have a massive role from day one. There are clear opportunities ahead of him. Look, you won't technically find Houston in the top 10 for vacated wide receiver targets in our draft guide, but you have to keep in mind that doesn't account for Tank Dell's 81 targets he had last year. He only played, I think, 14 games. Tank Dell's not going to play this year. So if you account for those 81 targets, then you're looking at 175 total vacated targets to wide receivers for the Houston Texans this year. That would rank best for 3rd amongst NFL teams. There's no one on this depth chart to really challenge him. Diggs is gone. Dell is injured. So you got to beat John Mechie and Christian Kirk. And speaking of the depth chart, we don't even know when Joe Mixon's going to be healthy. So this team might need to throw the ball more than they anticipated. We just saw last year, Jaden Higgins put up huge numbers out of Iowa State. Almost 1,200 yards, 7th most in the nation, 9 receiving touchdowns, the number 1 PFF graded receiver in the NFL or in college football last year. He can play inside, he can play outside. He's a perfect complement to Nico Collins. Don't sleep on some Jaden Higgins. All right, we need to add another running back to this list, R.J. Harvey. Let's get this out of the way. Yes, J.K. Dobbins is going to have a role, but you're talking about a guy from week 3 onwards last year when the Chargers started to give him more opportunities. He averaged under 4 rushing yards per carry and under 16 rushing yards per game. Dobbins will have a role, but he's not going to stop Harvey from breaking out in 2025. And regardless, this is a backfield that you want in on in fantasy football. They have the 2nd ranked offensive line heading into 2025, according to PFF and fantasy points. All 5 of their starters are back. It's a great group in that offensive line. This team targets running backs a ton. Last year, only 3 teams targeted the running back position more than the Denver Broncos. And RJ is in special company historically. Before Harvey, Sean Payton has only drafted a running back 3 times before day 3 of the NFL draft. Those names are Reggie Bush, Mark Ingram, Alvin Kamara. 3 running backs before Harvey combined to reach 8 Pro Bowls and 5 All-Pro selections. So sure, Dobbins is there. He's going to play a role, but he's not going to stop Harvey from breaking out. This is a broke money, don't make none move, in my opinion. All right, let's go to my official My Guy tight end this year. If you're not going to go an early tight end, at least for me, I'm going to go Tyler Warren. I know he's a rookie tight end. I must have lost my mind, but don't forget the tight end position is evolving quickly in the NFL, specifically with how early they are involved in a modern day offense. In 2023, a rookie tight end finishes a tight end 1 overall in Sam Laporta. in 2024. A rookie tight end finishes the tight end 1 overall in Brock Bowers. And look, I'm a huge fan of Josh Downs, but target share is wide open in this offense. No one has established himself as a dominant name, and Tyler Warren is a special prospect. Here is every tight end drafted top 15 in the last decade. Loveland, Warren, then Bowers, Pitts, Hawkinson. We're talking about a round 1 pick that helped Penn State reach the college football playoffs, accounting for over 32% of their entire air attack. Don't put limits on Tyler Warren in 2025. All right, my last my guy, and then we'll get to some honorable mentions. This should not be a surprise to anyone, but Davante Adams. Davante Adams and the LA Rams are a match made in heaven. The Rams are 3rd in total vacated targets, 1st in vacated targets to the wide receiver position. They've got opportunities up for grabs, and let me tell you what, Davante is going to eat those opportunities. He has finished top 4 in targets per game each year since 2018, 7 years in a row. He's going to demand a lot of targets in LA. And more importantly, he's in Sean McVay's system, a system that has been top 10 in passing yards per game each of the last 2 years, top 12 in red zone attempts per game each of the last 2 years. And you can just tell that McVay is in love with Adams on this team. He's gushing about him in his team meetings. He actually talks specifically about how he can help them in the red zone. Check this out.
Isolation fades. This is going to make us better collectively on both sides. All right, being able to add a great player like Davante Adams.
And I can't blame Sean for being excited because last year the Rams were 25th in red zone conversion percentage, right there with the Raiders, Browns, and Texans. Davante is a perfect addition to help with their red zone woes. He's been top 6 in targets inside the 5-yard line for years and consistently converting those targets. This is the best situation Davante Adams has been in a long time, probably since prime Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. I got 7 honorable mentions I want to get to, but just quickly, I asked myself, what if I could draft all of my guys in a fantasy draft? Well, I got pretty damn close in my latest best ball draft. I got 7 of my official my guys on my roster. I am drafting over on FastDraft in the Rabbit tournament. It's a 1 quarterback, 15 round tournament, $50,000 prize pool. If you want to sign up and draft with me, use a promo code LAND. We'll match your deposit up to $50, and then you can get into 5 Rabbit drafts for free. This is not meant to replace your home league. There's no commitment after you draft. You just draft, let it ride, get some practice in, and have some fun, and then you can eventually win some money. If you sign up, DM me on Discord. I'd love to add you to my group chat where we draft together. But here are my last honorable mentions. Dak Prescott, obsessed with that pass-heavy offense in Dallas. Caleb Johnson has a clear path to be the RB1 in Pittsburgh. Isaiah Pacheco is one of the most undervalued running backs in fantasy football right now. Trey Benson, I truly think could be a breakout this year. Debo is a name that no one likes except for me. And I'm okay because I think he's a perfect fit in Washington. Rome Odunze is a true breakout candidate in year 2. And Josh Downs, I do like Josh Downs as a breakout here with the Indianapolis Colts. But I appreciate y'all watching the video. Do me a favor, hit that like button and show some love. Subscribe if you like the content, and I'll see you in the next one. Let me know how I did, all right? A lot of pressure on this video, but I'm very confident in these names, and I hope you draft them, and I hope you win your league. I'll see you in the next one. Nothing but love. Draft with me every night this offseason on the FastDraft app, where there are over $250,000 in prizes waiting to be won. Getting started is easy. Download the FastDraft app, use the promo code LAND at signup to get your deposit match up to $50. That is 10 free drafts on us. And when you finish your first real money contest, I'll send you my 2025 rookie report and season rankings completely free. Check out the link in the pinned comment to start drafting today.